On August 21, 2021, Ali Bulat, a worker from the Russian city of Stavropol, filmed a rare natural phenomenon, the so-called Rat King. 5 tiny mice found in a watermelon field had their tails intertwined. Ali Bulat suggested that it was the mouse mom who tangled her kids' tails and tied them to a branch of a watermelon. The field was watered recently, and the water reached the burrow where the rodents lived. That's a pretty weird explanation. However, the man managed to untangle the mice, help them dry, and let them go. You might think that if he didn't help, the mice could actually die, slowly and painfully. According to the Museum Victoria senior curator of mammals, Kevin Rowe, rodents stuck together simply can't survive for long. They're unable to move. There's no way they can look for food or water. They're stuck with each other and stay in agony until they're untangled or dead. But before you understand what's really true and what's just a myth, you need to get to the bottom of the phenomenon called Rat King. Where does it even come from? Well, there are several theories. The first one says the Rat King is formed when a group of rats in close quarters, like a burrow, simply huddle together. They have so little space, they don't know where to put their legs and tails. As a result, they get tangled. The second theory sounds similar to the first one, but only at first glance. It's believed that rats tie their tails together when they huddle together if it gets especially cold. But they supposedly do it on purpose. That is, the creation of a Rat King is a conscious decision, and rats tie their tails together to survive. And if so, then why untangle the poor rodents? They're just trying to get warm, they're fine. In fact, both theories have arguments to back them up. If rats stick together by accident, the reason for that may lie in sebum. Since rat tails have no fur, rats produce sebum in large quantities to protect and moisturize the surface of their skin. I'm serious. In the place frequented by rats and where they walk the same routes, you can even notice traces of it. Several tails, well lubricated with sebum, get intertwined, and then the fat freezes due to the cold. In addition to that, food leftovers, excrement, and even blood can also act as glue. But the result is the same. Rats' tails get tangled during sleep. And when rats wake up, they try to scatter in different directions, which only tightens the knot. This theory is further supported by the fact that most rat kings were found during a cold season, and usually in close quarters. That is, the rats really could freeze to each other. On the other hand, cold weather could be the reason they got together on purpose. Moreover, if there's a rodent that knows everything about teamwork, it's a rat. I think that's partly why scientists use them to link 2 brains over the internet. I mean, literally. The scientists surgically implanted electrodes into the brains of 2 groups of rats and connected them to computers. Signals from the brain of one rat were transmitted by wire to a computer, then to the brain of another rat. Meanwhile, the animals were not just in different cages, but on different continents. In the end, it turned out that rats are indeed able to exchange information this way, including tactile data. Actually, that's very cool research. I'm surprised I never heard of it before. While the rats bound together might be, at least in theory, doing this intentionally, they can free themselves. But it doesn't work like that for squirrels. Yes, history knows many more examples of the Squirrel King than of the Rat King. In 2013, this phenomenon was discovered in Saskatchewan, Canada. 6 squirrels got their tails tied together, most likely because of the tree sap, and apparently they died faster than help arrived. Another Squirrel King was discovered in 2018 in the state of Nebraska. Again, 6 baby squirrels, again with tangled tails, and again because of the tree sap. Though these ones actually survived. The experts arrived on time, calmed the squirrels down with a mild painkiller, trimmed the sticky fur, and untangled their tails. The whole process took about an hour. Baby squirrels survived, but some still required amputation of irreparably damaged parts of the tail. It's unlikely that rats would require amputation. If you at least once touch the rat tail, then you know it's damn flexible. And yes, rats can actually get themselves out of the Rat King. This in turn confirms that they can create it on purpose. Experts claim rat tails easily unravel at the first suggestion of separation. As soon as it gets warm enough, the Rat King, most likely, breaks up into individual rats that no longer need to keep each other warm. Well, if the knot ends up being too tight, the rats always have a plan B. One of the rats just has to chew its tail off and get out of the trap. In fact, rats are so good at survival, but only cockroaches do it better. 75 million years ago, the ancient ancestors of rats were gnawing on the bones of tyrannosaurs. That's a clear hint that rats know how to win the evolutionary race. They can not only climb almost everywhere, eat almost anything, breed in almost any conditions. Check out these teeth. Have you seen them? The front teeth of rats can grow by 5.5 inches per year. Of course, they're worn down over time, but the growth rate suggests that the rat always has a reliable weapon. Strong, sharp molars allow them to chew almost everything, including cinder blocks, wood, bricks, and lead pipes. So chewing off its own tail is not a problem for the rat. Though the tail will hardly grow back, unlike with a lizard, or will it? It all depends on the species. There are actually rodents over there that can regenerate their tail. And these are the African spiny mice. When Marvel Comics created a superhero who could heal dreadful injuries, perhaps they should have called him the African spiny mouse instead of the Wolverine. Yeah, it wouldn't sound so menacing, but just think about it. These animals can jettison up to 60% of the skin along their back to get out of a predator's grip and survive. 60%! The skin of African spiny mice is very easy to tear, but it's regenerated with a huge speed. Wounds stop bleeding, quickly heal, and shrink by 64% during the day, whereas the rat requires from 5 to 7 days to completely cover the wound with new skin. The African spiny mouse can do this in just 3 days. There won't even be scars on the regenerated skin. In addition, the African spiny mouse can seal holes in its ears and regenerate toe tips without any problems. So if the African spiny mice got their tails tied, they wouldn't have any problems at all. Just bite the tail off and be on your way. But back to the rats. If they're the ones who create a rat king and then can get out of it, why do people find them dead in the vast majority of cases? After all, over the entire history of mankind, well, until 2005, only 58 reliable rat kings were registered, 6 of which ended up in museums. That doesn't look like great survival odds. However, there is a theory that explains this, and it points to people. People love money. Therefore, tying the dead rat's tails together to pass it off for the rat king and then sell it to the museum is a rather easy way to earn money. In any case, no one would have refused this opportunity before. And not only before, not so long ago, donkeys painted like zebras were found in the Cairo Zoo. The owners wanted to have exotic animals, but they were too expensive. Paint and donkeys were cheap. The thing is, the paint melted under the hot sun, and the characteristic color of the zebra disappeared right in front of the visitors. Well, whoops. But there is another theory to explain why the tangled rats are found dead. Perhaps they died before they managed to get out. The causes can be very different, or something prevented rats from getting out of the trap. For example, in the case of the rat king housed in the Otago Museum in Dunedin, New Zealand, curators say the rats became entangled in horsehair. Rats fell from the rafters of the shipping office, apparently right on people. They were not happy about that, and beat them to death with an instrument. The rat king died entirely. Sometimes rats end up in something sticky. I mean in something aside from their biological fluids. The rodents fall asleep, huddled into a ball to warm up, get tangled while sleeping, and when they wake up, they can no longer get out. If their tails are not only tangled but also stuck together, getting out of the rat king is almost impossible. These poor fellows risk not only dying from hunger or thirst, when they're tied to each other, they completely lose their speed, agility, dexterity, and all those qualities that actually allowed rodents to survive from the time of dinosaurs to the present day. In this state, rats are easy prey for both predators and people who don't mind putting them into some museum, naturally in a dead state. Because every rat king is a sensation. Remember that story from the beginning of the video? Believe it or not, it is considered one of the first reliable proof of the existence of rat kings in general. Of course, the size also matters. Perhaps the oldest specimen of all rat kings was found in Altenburg, Germany in 1828. It includes 32 rodents and is the largest specimen in the world. According to the museum where the rat king is housed, it was discovered by Miller Steinbruck when he was cleaning his chimney. And that's all the info we have. We don't know who this Miller was or under what circumstances he found the rat king. But at least these 32 poor rats were mentioned in the Guinness World Records. Of course, people began to find rat kings much earlier, though back then it never occurred to anyone to preserve them. Why would they? Imagine you live in Europe in the 1500s. The first record about the rat kings dates back to 1564, Not the best era to appreciate rats or figure out why their tails get tangled. However, people came up with a legend. They believed that elderly rats known for their wisdom were sitting on the tangled tails of other rats. It was believed that other rats treated the elderly rat as royalty, hence the name Rat King. Of course, no one was exactly ecstatic about such kings. They were considered a very bad sign, a harbinger of misfortune, illness, or even death. Moreover, I can't even blame our distant ancestors for being superstitious. Yes, at the time, people did not explicitly connect the plague with rat fleas, but the rat kings are more common where the rat population exploded. So places where rat kings are found can be ridden with deadly disease. Taking all this into account, it becomes clear why the reports of the living specimen of the rat kings are so rare. If something portends death, it's better to get rid of this something. The good news is that people are much less superstitious now, so perhaps scientists will have a real opportunity to study living rat kings and finally figure out what's what. See you later.